Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we plunge into complex organizations, dissecting corporate documents, policies, and internal rules to find the real operational story of how they succeed.
Today we are focusing on the Murchison Region Aboriginal Corporation.
And right at the top, we should say, for simplicity and just for accuracy, we're going to be referring to it throughout this deep dive as MRAC.
That's right, MRAC. And if you're looking for a definitive case study in how a nonprofit, community-led organization can achieve real sustained financial independence while rigidly adhering to deep cultural responsibilities, this is it.
Absolutely. The whole point of this deep dive is to understand that operational longevity and success. We're going to synthesize 40 years of hands-on experience, these unique cultural mandates demanding financial principles, and some seriously rigorous governance standards, all to map out exactly how MRAC manages to deliver quality, affordable homes across the Midwest and Gascoyne regions of Western Australia.
And these are vast, challenging, and often very remote areas. Our mission today is to take all these disparate sources, the rulebook, strategic plans, tenancy policies, and really reveal the self-sustaining mechanism that has allowed MRAC to become the leading community housing provider, or CHP, in those regions.
And it's a key point that they are the leading CHP.
It is. And crucially, they hold the unique distinction of being the only registered Aboriginal CHP operating in the Midwest and Gascoyne. That singular status, it gives them immense responsibility, but also incredible insight into the community's real needs.
Their vision is a powerful motivator here, ensuring all Aboriginal people in their region have high-quality, affordable homes.
Right. And this pursuit of stability isn't just treated as a real estate transaction. It's rooted in a culturally sensitive approach that explicitly recognizes unique cultural obligations in housing.
They see a secure home as the foundational infrastructure.
Exactly. The foundation upon which better lives, through education, employment, community engagement, are built. Without that, everything else is just so much harder.
Okay, let's start to unpack this highly detailed structure. Let's start by defining the core identity and scope of MRAC.
Well, they're far more than a typical landlord or even a typical nonprofit. They are a community housing provider with 4 decades of history.
40 years. That's a lot of on-the-ground experience.
It is. And their unique position as the sole registered Aboriginal CHP across those 2 major regions of WA, it just underscores the difficulty and the necessity of their work. That experience provides a type of knowledge that, no external body can really match.
And that definition of their role, it's strictly governed by their own foundational documents, right?
That's right. Rule 2.2 of their rulebook explains the core objective. Their mission is to provide stable housing that acts as a secure platform for families to positively participate in education, training, employment, and the community.
So it immediately shifts the focus. It's not just about solving homelessness.
No, it's about using housing as the primary lever for broader social and economic advancement. Without that foundational stability, everything else, schooling, job searching, health outcomes, becomes significantly harder.
And this philosophy, it links directly back to that crucial mandate of self-determination. They're not waiting around for government agencies or outside corporations to solve their problems.
Precisely. MRAC is explicitly mandated to give practical effect to the principles of self-management and self-determination for Aboriginal people in their region. And this is where their corporate structure gets really, really interesting.
How so?
It's not just about managing homes. It includes objectives like establishing, owning, investing in, and fostering business enterprises and commercial ventures of any lawful kind.
So they're an economic engine, not just a housing provider.
Exactly. They are designed to be an economic development engine, using housing provision as their primary business line, but with a goal that extends far beyond just collecting rent.
Okay, let's talk about the structure that enables that, because this leads us to the critical financial mechanism that makes them so unique.
The nonprofit status and their core financial principles.
Right.
As we've established, MRAC is a member-based, not-for-profit, community-managed housing corporation. But here is the financial point that anchors their entire strategy.
This is the key.
This is the key. They rely almost entirely on self-generated income. They commit to using all rental income, every single dollar, to improve existing properties, buy new homes, and fundamentally secure the corporation's future.
So if they generate a surplus, that money doesn't go to shareholders or external reserves. It stays inside that housing loop.
It absolutely stays within the housing mission. They receive minimal grant funding, and when they do, it's exclusively for specific special projects like maybe installing solar panels or a community training program.
And this is crucial. They explicitly state they do not receive government funding for their operations.
Correct. No core funding for salaries, administration, or routine maintenance. This extreme self-reliance is a strategic choice. It's a pillar of their self-determination model.
And it guarantees them a certain amount of insulation from political whims, I'd imagine.
It does. It guarantees financial viability. But, as we'll get into later, it also places some very specific limitations on their ability to scale rapidly when they're facing a crisis.
That model of financial self-determination, it must demand absolute transparency and accountability.
It does, and that's where the corporation's 5 core values come in. They translate that mandate into daily action.
Okay, let's break them down.
The first one is being culturally strong. This means valuing diversity, being inclusive, and maintaining a non-judgmental approach. They understand that cultural responsibilities like caring for extended family, that affects housing needs.
Right, so their policies have to reflect that nuanced understanding.
Exactly. Then you get into the corporate governance values. They are committed to being honest and transparent.
What does that mean in practice?
Honesty means acting with integrity, taking personal responsibility for actions. Transparency means answering questions directly and explaining every decision based on the corporation's approved, publicly available policies.
And that's a direct response to their post-2015 governance commitment, ensuring members and tenants know exactly why a decision was made.
The remaining values then focus on fairness and continuous improvement. They commit to being fair, providing services to all eligible Aboriginal people without discrimination.
And the last one?
Quality with innovation. A commitment to high standards, embracing continuous improvement, and actively welcoming productive change. And that's essential when you're managing remote housing stock.
So these values aren't just, words on a poster. How are they actually enforced?
They're enforced through the rigorous accountability framework required under the Commonwealth Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Act.
The Katasai Act.
Yes, the Katasai Act. And this is key because the Katasai Act structurally mirrors the requirements of the Australian Securities and Investment Commission, or ASIC.
So the same body that governs major Australian public companies.
Exactly. So when MRAC restructured post-2015, they committed to meeting the highest possible standard of corporate financial reporting, director duties, and operational transparency. It provides a huge amount of confidence.
Okay, let's move from those principles to the tangible assets that fuel this whole thing, the property portfolio.
Right. The portfolio size and their strategy for growth. Currently, MRAC owns and manages 116 residential properties across those 2 vast regions.
Which is a significant portfolio for a community-led CHP.
It is, but their strategic goal is active, quality-focused growth. They aren't interested in acquiring just any property. They aim to buy more quality, secure, and comfortable houses.
And their investment decisions are tightly controlled, it sounds like. They apply a very disciplined, almost corporate filter.
It is extremely disciplined. Before they commit capital, they evaluate 3 core criteria. First, the proven demand in that specific area. Second, the availability of alternative housing options. And third, the profitability of the investment.
To make sure they're filling a genuine gap.
Right. This structured approach ensures every new acquisition is sound and contributes directly back to the financial sustainability of the corporation.
Okay, so here's where we get to what seems like a paradox for a community provider. The active disposal strategy. The idea of selling off properties seems counterintuitive when the need for housing is so high.
It does on the surface, but it's a critical component of their quality-driven model. This isn't asset stripping, it's quality control and capital recycling.
Okay, break that down.
Homes might be sold for one of 2 reasons. Either they're sold to a current tenant who wants to transition from renting to owning their own home.
Which supports long-term family wealth.
Exactly. Or they're sold on the open market because the property no longer meets the strategic needs or quality standards of the corporation.
And the key mechanism is that the proceeds are reinvested.
Immediately reinvested. This constant cycle of selling older, less efficient properties and using that capital to buy newer, better ones ensures the overall quality of their housing portfolio is always improving.
Let's get into the specifics of the governance around those sales. Rule 11 of the rulebook seems to lay this out very clearly.
The governance here is paramount. The standard requirements are twofold. First, they must get a formal independent valuation from a licensed valuer in WA.
And second,
the property must be sold for a price that is not less than that formal valuation. This ensures the community is always getting fair market value for its assets.
But there is some flexibility, right? The divestment exception.
It's a strategic loophole, and it's very tightly controlled. The board recognizes that sometimes, for strategic reasons, a property might need to be sold quickly.
Right.
In this case, the board can, by formal resolution, approve a sale price below the formal valuation.
What's the safety net on that? How far below?
The safety net is a firm financial floor. The sale price must be not less than 75% of the formal valuation. This 75% threshold acts as a minimum value protective measure. It gives the board agility without risking the asset base.
And we know this isn't just theory. The sources confirm its active use in mid to late 2025 with 3 specific announcements.
Yes, 19 Hubble Street in Carnarvon, 116 Brand Highway in Geraldton, and 23141 Augustus Street in Geraldton were all put on the market.
So that's the model functioning in the real world.
It is. It's evidence that they're continuously reviewing the portfolio, identifying properties that might be too costly to maintain or no longer meet the quality threshold, and then converting that asset value into new capital for growth.
Okay, let's bring this back down to the tenant level. Maintenance and benefits. How does this strategy actually feed back into the homes people live in?
Well, the upgrades are highly focused on long-term sustainability and tenant benefit. When planning improvements, they actively try to replace or install energy-efficient appliances.
So things like efficient hot water systems or better air conditioning?
Exactly. This upfront investment by MRAC is specifically designed to reduce the tenant's ongoing utility costs, which, as you know, is a major financial stressor for low-income families.
And this creates a kind of positive reinforcement loop with the tenants themselves.
Absolutely. MRAC is very clear about this. When tenants pay rent on time and keep their homes well maintained, the operating costs for the corporation stay low.
And when costs are low?
The closed financial loop allows MRAC to allocate more funds to those special projects, like their specific goal of installing air conditioning in seniors' homes. Tenant responsibility directly translates into community-wide benefits.
Let's transition to the tenant experience itself. We need to dive into the rent calculation and the financial transparency. This is where MRAC really demonstrates that fairness principle.
It is. The structure is designed to be affordable and fair. The rent is reviewed annually, but tenants also have to inform MRAC within 14 days if their income situation changes significantly.
Can you walk us through the 2 main ways they calculate rent for affordability?
Certainly. For tenants on Centrelink, they're charged 25% of their total payment plus the full Commonwealth rental assistance they receive.
And 25% is a pretty common social housing benchmark.
It is. It ensures the vast majority of their income remains available for food, utilities, and other family needs.
And what about for those who are working?
If the tenant's working, the charge shifts slightly to 30% of their net income, so after tax. But in both scenarios, there's a crucial safety cap.
Right, the 75% of market rent cap.
Exactly. The maximum rent charged is 75% of the market rent, as determined by the Australian Tax Office. That 25% mandatory buffer ensures that affordability is always the primary goal.
Now we have to talk about the flip side of that model, their dependence on consistent payment. Since there's no operational funding, timely rent is literally the corporation's lifeblood.
That is the tension at the heart of the model, and they're very upfront about it in their tenancy arrears management fact sheet.
What does that say?
It's not ambiguous at all. It explains clearly and professionally that the corporation's reliance on rent as its only income means non-payment, places the financial viability of MRAC and therefore the housing stability of all the other tenants at risk.
And the support for people who fall behind is formalized through the Housing Support Program, or HSP.
Yes, the HSP is an incredibly important tool. It's a proactive case management approach aimed at preventing tenancy breakdown.
And it's not just for existing tenants.
No, it's flexible. It's available to new and existing tenants, but also to non-MRAC clients in the community who are seeking advice on housing options. It really shows their commitment to the whole community's well-being.
And this program is led by a dedicated staff member, the Housing Support Coordinator.
That's right. And the methodology is highly individualized. They don't apply a one-size-fits-all solution. They work directly with the tenant to establish achievable goals. Maybe it's setting up a budget or learning simple maintenance routines.
With the ultimate goal being long-term, independent tenancy management.
Precisely.
Okay, we have to acknowledge the elephant in the room. The current housing crisis hitting Australia, and specifically the Midwest and Gascoyne.
It's an unavoidable reality, and MRAC is acutely affected. They're still accepting applications, but they're very transparent about this situation. The waitlist for a home is long. it could potentially take years.
And this crisis has forced MRAC into proactive, evidence-based advocacy. The overcrowding survey from November 2025 is a key example.
It's a crucial tool for cultural honesty. The purpose of this confidential survey is to gather accurate data that MRAC knows the current government statistics just do not capture.
Because government figures often just count the leaseholders.
Exactly. They miss the complex cultural reality of extended families, kinship networks, friends, all doubling up in homes because there is genuinely nowhere else for them to go. This chronic, unacknowledged overcrowding creates immense strain.
So what are the specific pointed questions they're asking to capture this complexity?
They're focused on occupancy density, they ask.
Yeah.
How many bedrooms are in the home? How many people are on the lease? And critically, how many people actually stay there most nights?
And the relationship of those people to the leaseholder.
And whether they identify as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander. These details are essential because the burden of overcrowded housing is tied directly to health and education outcomes.
And the goal of collecting this data is explicitly for advocacy.
Yes, this isn't just for internal planning. It is explicitly gathered to support evidence-based advocacy, allowing MRAC to approach government agencies with irrefutable proof of the true scale of the crisis. It transforms the narrative from anecdotes to actionable statistical reality.
Let's finish this section by solidifying the legal expectations around tenant rights and responsibilities.
The relationship is framed by mutual respect. MRAC assures tenants that while the corporation owns the asset, they recognize that it's your home.
So tenants can personalize it, hang pictures, that sort of thing.
Yes, and they're allowed to have pets, provided they comply with local council regulations and maintain responsibility for the animal.
And what about the specific liabilities placed on the tenant?
Tenants are liable for all utility consumption, gas, water, electricity. They're also financially responsible for any damage caused by themselves, other residents, or their visitors.
And general upkeep.
They handle general property maintenance, keeping the home clean, maintaining the gardens, managing common pests. But MRAC retains the critical corporate responsibility for the annual termite inspection, recognizing the long-term structural importance of that.
Okay, let's shift our attention to the corporate engine behind all this, governance. It's impossible to understand MRAC's resilience today without discussing the history of its governance framework.
That history is absolutely the foundation of their current strength. The sources emphasize that the current robust board and governance framework was actively established after a special administration period ended in September 2015.
So that was a critical turning point.
A huge turning point. They didn't just survive that period. They used it as a blueprint for permanent improvement. The organization committed itself immediately to a framework of continuous quality improvement. They explicitly chose to use that difficult period as a learning opportunity to create what they now describe as a healthier, more robust, and transparent business.
And their compliance structure, as we touched on, is designed to reflect top-tier Australian corporate law.
Correct. Operating under the CATSA Act means they are required to meet standards that mirror ASIC. So you're talking rigorous financial reporting, strict rules for director duties, and a very high level of accountability.
Let's scrutinize the board structure. It seems to be a careful balance of community ownership and specialized corporate skill.
It is. The structure requires a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 7 member directors who have to be drawn from the membership base. This guarantees community representation.
But it also mandates an effort to appoint 2 independent specialist directors.
Yes, and that's crucial. These are individuals chosen specifically for their professional independence or their high-level skills in areas like accounting, law, or corporate governance. This blend ensures both cultural sensitivity and corporate competence.
And the eligibility criteria for the member directors, Rule 5.4, are exceptionally stringent.
They are. To be eligible, a person must be an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander person, at least 18, and vitally, be normally and permanently resident in the Midwest or Gascoyne regions.
What's the definition of permanently resident?
It's specific, residing there for at least 3 months with permanent content. This prevents, fly-in, fly-out directors who lack a genuine current understanding of local needs.
And beyond residency, there are professional qualifications.
Yes, directors must possess or commit to rapidly acquiring essential corporate skills. Financial literacy, leadership experience, experience with boards, and they must be able to manage electronic communication, which is essential for rapid decision-making across those vast distances.
And the disqualifiers are equally critical for safeguarding the corporation's integrity.
They're very strict. A person is ineligible if they're an employee or contractor, or disqualified under the Cat's Eye Act. But the most revealing financial gatekeeper is the debt rule.
Right, the $500 outstanding debt rule.
Yes, a person is disqualified if they have more than $500 in outstanding debt to the corporation. Given that MRAC relies entirely on rent for its viability, this rule ensures that the people governing the organization are demonstrating the highest standard of personal financial responsibility.
Is there any flexibility on that?
There's a very limited exemption. The chairperson and vice chairperson can grant a temporary one based on specific circumstances, but the intent is clear. A director has to maintain financial stability with the organization they govern.
Let's explore the operational mechanisms of the board. How do they use committees to manage the complexity?
Well, the full board meets at least 4 times per year for quarterly strategic review. But the operational backbone seems to be the Transitional Business Committee.
And what makes that committee so important?
The TBC, as it's known, is delegated the full authority of the MRAC Board of Directors via a standing delegation. This is a powerful tool because it allows the committee to meet electronically on an as-required basis, enabling rapid, binding decision-making.
Which, given the geography, is crucial for agility.
Absolutely. Waiting for a quarterly meeting to approve an urgent asset sale or a major maintenance tender could cost a fortune. The TBC provides the necessary speed to operate efficiently.
And all of this is underpinned by the duty to declare material personal interests.
Yes, under Rule 5.17, a director must immediately declare any material personal interest. And to ensure there's zero conflict, the conflicted director must not be present during the deliberation and must not vote on the matter. It's a strict firewall.
Okay, moving to the members, the community owners, what are their rights in terms of governance participation?
They possess extensive rights, laid out in Rule 3.4. The fundamental ability to attend, speak, and vote at general meetings, propose resolutions, and inspect key corporate documents free of charge, like the Register of Members and meeting minutes.
So it's a highly democratic structure. Can the members actually change the rule book itself?
They can. It's a formal, high-bar process. It requires a special resolution, which must be passed by members at a general meeting with a 75% majority.
And the fact that the rulebook was updated in 2025 following a special general meeting confirms this democratic process is active and functional.
That's right.
Let's pivot now to more current operations and community outreach. The domestic violence workshops they hosted in partnership with Lifeline WA in December 2025 really highlight their dual role as housing provider and social support leader.
Holding these at the MRAC office in Spalding shows their physical commitment to being a community hub. And they offer 2 distinct, highly targeted workshops, which shows a nuanced understanding of community needs.
Can you detail the difference between those 2 training tracks?
Yes. For the general public, they offered a shorter, highly accessible 2-hour DV-Aware session. This was interactive, designed to help the average person recognize the signs of domestic violence and know how to respond.
Just about raising community-wide awareness.
Exactly. And then there was the professional level.
The intensive 2-day course.
Right. The 2-day First Nations re-engagement training, which is nationally recognized. This was specifically for frontline workers, people in social services or health, to equip them with practical, in-depth skills. Attendees even received a formal statement of attainment.
So MRAC is actively engaged in building professional capacity in the region. Let's discuss operational transparency and staffing. We saw active recruitment in September 2025 for critical roles.
That hiring push for a housing operations manager and officer is a direct strategic investment. It aligns with their stated priority of improving staff capabilities. Their goal isn't just to attract people, but to make MRAC a great place to work so they can retain the highly capable staff they need.
And one of the most compelling pieces of evidence for their commitment to being transparent is the sheer volume of corporate resources and policies they make publicly available on their website.
It's an extraordinary commitment to clarity. The public availability of these policies ensures that tenants, members, contractors, and staff all understand the exact rules of engagement.
And we're talking about policies that cover everything from managing physical risk to defining acceptable behavior.
Exactly. They publish their asbestos management plan, their contractor management policy, and documents focused on integrity, like the fraud, corruption, and criminal behavior prevention policy.
And for tenants, things like the rent setting policy and the arrears fact sheet are all right there.
All freely available. This ensures every decision made by staff can be referenced back to an approved, accessible document. It completely fulfills that promise of transparency.
Finally, let's look at forward planning and communication. How does MRAC ensure its members are consistently engaged and informed?
They maintain a clear communication rhythm. Formal events like the annual general meeting are central, but they also use regular, accessible methods, consistently releasing tenant and member newsletters throughout 2024 and 2025.
And the rulebook imposes a specific, critical transparency measure concerning their most valuable assets: land transactions.
This is Rule 10, a vital check on the board's power. Members must be advised every 6 months, in writing, of any land purchase or disposal. This notification has to happen within 28 days following the end of every 6-month period.
So it ensures the community retains oversight over the big capital decisions.
Exactly. It reinforces that strong democratic foundation we were talking about.
So this deep dive into the Murchison Region Aboriginal Corporation, or MRAC, it really reveals an organization that has mastered this difficult blend of social purpose and corporate discipline.
It's a powerful case study in self-sustaining, community-driven housing provision. They've successfully adhered to a deep cultural mandate while upholding the rigorous financial accountability needed for a modern corporation.
The success of their model over 4 decades seems to lie in that radical commitment to internal sustainability.
I think so. By operating as a true not-for-profit that reinvests all rental income and refuses core government operational funding, they've created this closed economic loop. The wealth generated by their 116 properties perpetually supports the housing needs of their people.
And their long-term commitment to the mission is perhaps best illustrated by that final, powerful rule about what happens to their assets if they were to ever wind up.
Rule 15. It's the ultimate guarantee. It mandates that any remaining community housing assets, after all debts are satisfied, must be transferred to another registered community housing provider in WA or to the Housing Authority.
So the assets can't be dissolved or diverted?
Never. They are legally bound to continue serving the community housing mission. It shows a commitment that completely transcends the corporate entity itself.
They really are ensuring their legacy endures, but that brings us back to that tension we identified earlier, the self-sustaining loop versus the sheer scale of the need. And this is the final thought for you, the listener, to mull over.
MRAC relies heavily on generating sufficient rental income from its 116 properties to fund future growth. It's all about efficiency and capital recycling. Yet we know they're simultaneously tracking an immense and rapidly growing community crisis through their overcrowding survey.
A need that far outstrips their current capacity.
Right. So this raises an important question. In a region facing such a massive systemic crisis, can an organization remain both fiercely self-sufficient and scale fast enough to meet that rising need without fundamentally challenging their current model of minimal grant funding?
What does their impressive 4-decade operations suggest about the true power and perhaps the inherent geographical limitations of community self-determination in solving these massive systemic housing crises?
It's a vital question rooted in hard data and cultural reality.
It is indeed. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the Murchison Region Aboriginal Corporation, or MRAC. We hope you feel thoroughly well informed about this unique and successful corporate model. We'll catch you next time.